What's going on, everybody? I am headed out early tomorrow morning. It's Wednesday today. Thursday's my travel day to Strongsville. I think my plane is supposed to leave at like 5:30 in the morning, something like that. I just hope there are no delays. I hope I get there okay. If I have delays coming home, that's one thing. I don't want to have any delays getting there. But we are on Wednesday, which means it's Q and A day. Now, if you didn't tune in a couple of days ago, I posted my most recent video where I ask all of you a question. And I asked the question about what do you think is the most overrated thing in the hobby right now? If you've not watched that video, check that out, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Not sure what the next few days are going to look like video-wise. I'm planning on hopefully posting something tomorrow. Would be recording it today and then posting that one tomorrow on Thursday, my travel day. I think I'm going to get that done. And then I plan on doing at least one video from Strongsville, kind of showing the show, checking out, what's available for everybody. And maybe even if I have some pickups, maybe some of my pickups, we will have to see how it all plays out. Again, if I don't make any pickups at this show, that's okay. If I have several pickups, that's great too. We'll just see what happens, but I'm not going to force anything, that's for darn sure. You all asked some great questions again this week. I am always looking for new questions, so if you've not asked a question for a Q&A video, or you have, don't hesitate down below in the comments. Just simply type those out. I look forward to hearing what you all are interested in, but let's look at this week's first question here. My buddy Jeremy says, question and maybe just an overall discussion. Why did it take so long for a generation to be all about autos on cards? Printed autos have been on cards for decades and decades. The 1952 tops look like some of the sticker autos. I have some thoughts, but curious to hear yours. Fun Q&A. Thanks. Okay, my guy Jeremy. Jeremy's going to be in Strongsville. Great guy. He asks, what's suddenly the hype all about when it comes to autographs on vintage cards? Now, about 2 years ago, maybe just under 2 years ago, I did a video that kind of touched on this a little bit. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. First, I think that just like vintage cards certainly affect the modern market and the modern card market, I think that modern cards affect the vintage card market. Whenever there's any sort of innovation that's happening with modern cards, I think that sometimes other areas or categories in card collecting kind of look at it and go, that's a good idea for vintage players too. And the pack pulls that are the most exciting and most valuable right now in modern cards are autographed cards and rare cards. So that, I think, kind of brings us to autographed vintage cards. Now, first off, there are a lot of attributes to make an autographed card cool, a vintage autographed card cool too. For one, the player held it in their hand. So whether you have a postcard signed by a player, a photo, a ball, anything that was held by the player and they signed it, I mean, that's kind of what an autograph is. It's sort of like a, I was here, right? And I touched this. That's kind of what the whole thing is with autographs. And how do you prove that someone touched this ball? Well, they signed their name, which is hard to duplicate. And so I think that part of the allure is the rarity. More on that in a second. But part of the allure is also the player actually touched the item, which is pretty cool when there's somebody who is a well-known, famous, exciting, popular player, world-known person, legendary person, and they touched this artifact. It makes it pretty cool. And so I think that's part of it too. But back to the rarity. Now, my buddy Tony, Southern Collector 14, I talk a lot about him. I talk about him a lot because, one, he's a good friend of mine. But number two, he's got a great channel. And he did a video, maybe about a week ago on autographed cards and why to him they were special. And and he was kind of sharing some insight on why he's really into them, because he's really into those right now. And I think that part of what he shared in the video, and you should check it out if you haven't. He posted it last week. It's the scarcity. It's, if you look at a card like even a 52 tops mantle, right? A very sought after card. It's not a rare card. There are lots of those cards out there. I can go on Facebook and see a bunch of them today. Right now, there are a bunch of them for sale on eBay. Auction houses have them for sale all the time. Not a particularly rare card. So what is something that makes one special? Well, it's rare for it to be in good condition, right? So that adds value because it's rare. Most of them are beat up because they're old. It's rare to have one that's really well centered. That is something to kind of add to the chase of it, and that adds value to it. But there aren't a lot of them that have been held by Mickey Mantle and signed by Mickey Mantle. And that makes them especially special because there just aren't a lot of them. So if there are a few people who want one, there aren't as many to go around. As we all know, a really low supply of something results in a high price if there's a good demand for it as well. So I think that, part of it is the modern hobby has started to rub off in some areas on the vintage hobby. And it is one hobby, I should say modern cards are starting to, I think, rub off a little bit on vintage cards and vice versa. But I think that the scarcity factor, the population being so much lower, that it doesn't take much of a change in demand for a card that is especially rare to really change in value. And so the upward potential of an autographed copy is much greater because the supply is so much less. And again, it wasn't that long ago that it was very taboo to get a card signed. And so the few that were signed are just kind of few and far between. So I think it's a lot of factors playing together. I think Tony does a great job of explaining it in his video. I think it's a great question, and I look forward to seeing you in Strongsville. This next one says, "Glad you're feeling better, Greg. Sterling Sharp was recently elected to the NFL Hall of Fame. I think I've asked you this question before, but I'll ask again. I've been thinking about possibly introducing my 10-year-old nephew to cards, but I don't know. He is really hyper. So if I do it, it will be after he calms down a little. What do you think?" Oh, this is a fun question, and I have very, very strong opinions on this. When kids go to school, they learn certain things. They learn how to add. They learn how to spell. They learn different facts and theories about science. They learn about history. But a lot of the things that kids learn in school is not a hands-on thing that they can apply immediately to their lives. And so the best type of learning, and I'm a teacher, the best type of learning is when somebody is learning but they don't realize that they're learning. And they're picking up skills and they're picking up understanding of how things work without knowing that that's happening. Now, right now, a lot of young people, kids, teenagers, whatever, even people in their 20s and 30s, are so addicted to their phones that all they're doing is playing games, is scrolling through TikToks, and they're all short things, fast things. They are absolutely training people to have low attention spans. And then there's something like cards. And cards teaches kids economics, supply and demand. It teaches them sales. It teaches them advertising. It teaches them about rarity. It teaches them about how to talk to people, how to negotiate things. Those are a lot of life application skills that kids don't get in school. I mean, where does a kid get negotiation skills in school? Where does a kid get advertising skills? They don't get econ until their senior year. So they don't understand supply and demand until they're 17 or 18 years old. I remember vividly going to my econ class in high school, and it was like the first day I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm home. This is this is where I belong. I love this stuff. I've been doing this stuff for years. So I completely understood all of the principles. I understood the principles of tracking things, and the principles of why prices are changing, and scarcity. All of that stuff I learned through cards. So you go, and I hear what you're saying. It's like, oh, I should have introduced this hobby. You should introduce the hobby not just because it's a great hobby, but also because of how much your nephew, in this case, could learn as a result of being a participant in this hobby. And you're saying, well, he's hyper, he's probably going to beat up the cards. Start with cheap stuff. Let him cut his teeth. Let him figure out, how it all works by getting him very inexpensive cards, dollar box cards. Give them to him, go to shows, look through dollar boxes, handle those, because the potential damage that can be done to a dollar box card is $1, right? But you're not gonna start handing him Ty Cobb cards and Babe Ruth cards, because part of the learning process and part of what you learn from doing cards is how to take care of things. I have students who have cars and they just treat them like crap. And the card breaks down and the car has problems because they don't treat it well. One of the ways you learn how to treat things well and take care of items is by practice. And you can practice that through cards. So to me, it doesn't matter if it's Pokemon cards, if it's sports cards, if it's some TCG thing. Getting them introduced in a hobby where there are fluctuating prices, where there are transactions, where there are scarcity issues, is going to teach your nephew a lot of valuable life skills and give them a huge head start. I mean, imagine a kid talking to an adult and negotiating with an adult, making a transaction, looking them in the eye, shaking their hand on the deal, having the money change hands. That kind of stuff is so super valuable. And I think that it's a great opportunity for you to make a huge difference in his life by getting him involved in the hobby. Now, that doesn't mean he'll like it. I've tried to get my kids involved in the hobby. I've given them some cards, and, Molly's into Star Wars, so I've given her some Star Wars cards. Lucy's into soccer, so I've given her some soccer auto cards. They're not really into it. They kind of just go along with it for me, but that's just not their thing. But Molly does collect things. Molly collects books. She's got a lot of first edition books. She keeps them in really good shape. She reads books, and then she learns about different authors, and then she tries to get early editions of some of the younger, lesser known authors that she thinks have a bright future. So she's kind of doing that thing, Molly is, with books. Some of the books that she has are worth $300-$400 that she bought for $15. So it may not end up being cards, but getting young people into hobbies is a really valuable thing. And here Molly is as a business major. She's finishing up her sophomore year as a business major. And a lot of the principles that she's applying to her classes are things that she's kind of learned by going through her book collecting. So absolutely, I think even if young kids are not collecting what we think are the right things to collect, not that there's a wrong thing, but even if they're going down, I don't understand why they'd like this TCG, or I don't understand why they'd like this type of card. The learning that's happening is so extremely valuable. I highly recommend that anybody introduces this hobby to anybody young who shows any interest in it at all. I have a question for you and Mangini, since you are doing a live with him soon. I know he hates grading. On Sammy Thunder's recent video from the Philly show, I saw a 72 Staubach rookie card in a 9 marked $20,000 at Ash's table. I have a few cards, if they were graded, might be worth thousands. I know if I sold them right now, I might get $100. Having them in a Mangini collection slab might carry some weight. Having my name on them means nothing. With my budget, I can either grade one card a month or buy a card. I'd like to hear your opinion or his. All right. Now, a question like this, I think, would require... It's not something that I can give advice necessarily unless I know the point of why somebody would do something. Like, I don't know what kind of car I would recommend to someone until I know what they're planning on using it for. Now, for this particular question, it sounds like what you're saying is that you've got a lot of really nice cards, but because they're not graded, they couldn't be sold for very much money. But if they got graded and they got high grades, they would sell for lots of money. And so the question is, should you get them graded or should you continue to build your collection? I think, so if that's the premise, and I think that's what the premise is, I can certainly share my thoughts on that. Now, the whole point of why do we grade? Some people grade because they're curious what a third party thinks the condition of their card is. Some people could care less about that. Some people grade because it encapsulates and protects the card. Some people could care less about that. Some people grade because the perceived value and what you could exchange the card for in a holder that's been assigned a high grade, it will produce more money than if it's not. So I guess my response would be, are you planning on selling? Because if you're planning on selling, if you want to maximize your money based on the condition that you're describing, it probably would be better to grade them and sell them than to just sell them because they'll fetch more money. Now, whether it should be that way or not, completely different story. But that's where we're at, is people want to buy a card and have some confidence in the qualities of the card, and grading tends to give you some pretty good ideas about the qualities of the card. So if you're going to sell, if you're planning on selling, then I would say, yeah, you should probably get them graded in order to maximize your money. Now, if you just want to get them protected and authenticated, then the question would be, is it going to bring you more joy to spend $25 or so to get a card graded that you already have and get it in a holder and get it protected and get it authenticated? Or would it bring you more joy to buy another card for $25? Right? That it's a whole opportunity cost. You can either do this or you could do this. So which one am I going to do? I'm going to do the one that produces more joy, right? If you have $25 and you could get it graded and encapsulated, will that make you happier, or would adding a $25 card make you happier? And there's not a right or wrong answer. It's all up to the individual. Now, the other thing I would say, but before I kind of finish my thoughts on this, is some people like to get cards graded because then if something were to happen to us, the people who would be left with the cards would be able to fetch more money for them, right? So like my daughters and my wife, they know nothing about cards. So if they were the only 3 people left in my family and I passed, then they wouldn't be able to get the accurate true value. It would be difficult to get the actual true value of cards that aren't graded because of the lack of trust of a transaction for a card that's not graded. And whether we like that or not is not up to us. So some people look at getting their cards encapsulated and graded as almost like a little bit of a life insurance policy to protect the people who will receive them, because it's much easier for a random person on the street to sell a PSA 8, Wilt Chamberlain rookie card than it is for them to sell a graded Wilt Chamberlain rookie card for the same amount of money, even though it's the same card. So even though the same card is one in a holder, another one not in a holder, the one in the holder is going to be easier to get the full value from because of the confidence that grading gives to potential buyers. So that's the only other piece I would throw out there. So if you like your cards, if you are in good health, if you're not planning on going anywhere, you're not planning on selling them anytime soon, I would say it probably would bring you more joy to get new cards. But if you're thinking about selling soon, or you want to kind of hedge your bets to protect the value of the cards for a potential heir to receive them and then liquidate them, then it might be worth grading. So there are a lot of factors that play into it, but that's kind of what my head does, where my head goes when I think about whether or not I want to get a card graded. I've got a lot of cards right now that are not graded, and I have absolutely no intention in getting them graded anytime soon, if ever. And then I have a small stack of cards that I think I will get graded because the potential upside, if they were to get assigned a higher grade, would bring enough value, and they're cards that I don't know if I'll necessarily keep long term, that it's in order to maximize the most out of the card, it needs to be graded first. This one says, question, how did having kids impact the hobby for you? Any changes in your hobby, time, and budget? Family is always the top priority, but I can see how the hobby can be leaned into a little bit more during times of stress. Okay, so the main thing that family did is it affected my time and disposable income. So I collected pretty much all the way through high school. Then when I went away to college, I wasn't going to shows because I wasn't home. I was kind of, where I went to school was kind of away from any big city where there would be a big show. So I stopped going to shows, but I continued collecting. My collecting changed a little bit. I was heavy into golf at that point in my life. I was buying a lot of golf cards, 81, 82 Donruss stuff. I still was tracking a lot of the cards that I liked. And then I graduated from college. I came home, and about a year after I started teaching is when I got married. So I didn't have a very long time from the time that I wasn't single for very long where I wasn't in college. So that was a time where I was making decent money, and I didn't have crazy bills. I didn't have a family, but it was a short window. And then my wife and I, we had our first daughter 2 years, almost to the day of our anniversary of when we got married. So we got, my wife got pregnant about a year into our marriage. And as soon as my wife got pregnant, it's like, okay, we can't spend any money on anything because we have to now plan for having a child. We bought a house. So we were basically broke. I didn't have money. I wasn't making a lot of money at work. My wife was basically pregnant and then had a baby and didn't work very much. She had a very part-time, distant, like a job, an online basically job. Then a year and a half, 18 months after our first daughter was born, my second daughter was born. So I go from in college, a year and a half later married, a year and a half after that, wife is pregnant, year and a half after that, first child is born, second child is born, have a house, wife isn't really working. We basically didn't have money. I mean, I was literally eating like a cup of noodles at lunch at work. Like, did not have a lot of money, was not doing much. And so the thought of collecting cards and spending any kind of money on cards was just out of the question. but I tracked cards. Every year or so, my dad would say, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas?" And I'd give him a list of things, and I would say, "Beat up Yogi Berra rookie, 48 Bowman. Beat up Ernie Banks, 54 Tops." Like, I still wanted them, I still tracked them, but it wasn't really realistic. And then I coached my kids' sports. So from the time my oldest was about 4, I started coaching soccer. I started coaching softball. So I was doing that. I was also coaching at my high school at the time, partly for the money, which is crazy. And so I basically didn't have any money, and I also didn't have any time. And so I tracked cards. I was always checking in on what things were going for and what was happening in the market, but I wasn't really buying much. And then I would say, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, I started to slowly buy some of the cards that I wanted when I was a kid. Like, I went out and bought a 86 rated rookie Jose Canseco and an 85 Topps Mark McGuire. And some of those childhood nostalgia cards, a Tony Gwynn rookie card. I started buying some of those nostalgia cards because they were cheap. I could kind of participate in the hobby, and but I didn't have time still. And then I've said a few times that one of the reasons I started my channel when I did is because I saw the end of the line coming for my kids' sports. I have a senior in high school. I have a sophomore in college. They're going to be out of the house soon. They're going to have their own life soon. I'm not going to be going to Lucy's soccer anymore soon because, she is going to be playing next year in college. So I'll be attending those games. But my weekends have been booked for years. My weekends have been booked. My money has been tight. And just recently, I'm getting to the point where my wife was able to go back to work full time. We paid off our house. We were able to actually have a little bit of money. And I wanted to start setting up my life for life after my kids being my hobby. And so here I am. So still busy because Lucy is still playing. I mean, she had a game last weekend. I'm going to miss 2 games while I'm in Strongsville. Like, she's still got a lot of games going on, but basically, I guess I'm giving you a really long version of my life on card collecting, but having a family basically made funds unavailable and made time unavailable. So if you're asking me, hey, I've got a family, how can I participate in the hobby? I would say on free time, you can be checking eBay, you can be checking auction houses, maybe go to a local card show from time to time, dig through dollar boxes, buy nostalgia cards. I mean, you could buy a 87 Topps traded Greg Maddux for not very much money. And he was a pretty good player, and that's kind of a nostalgia card from my era. You can buy an 86 Topps Don Mattingly for not very much money. Very much a nostalgia card for me. So you can still participate in the hobby, but I think it's very important that people make sure that they're spending their money. And again, I'm never going to tell anybody else what to do, but I'm going to strongly encourage people that you shouldn't be spending money that you need on things that you want. And there are a lot of sports cards that people want, but they need to be spending that money on things that they need right now. So there are going to be times in your life that you're going to have more money. There's going to be times in your life that you have more time than you know what to do with. And it may not be right now. And I would just say be patient. The cards will still be around. Heck, if the economy tanks, the cards might be getting cheaper. We never know what's going to happen. But make sure that family is first. Make sure that your funds are going toward needs over wants. Not telling anyone what to do, but I highly recommend that. Greg, please help me understand and don't hold nothing back. I know as a collector, the viewpoint is if you have the funds and you're happy for people who have high grade, nice cards. But a lot of people would say I don't buy a 10 and I will settle for a 9. It's just beyond cringe to me. And now a lot of the same guys are downgrading. I get it that you go in different directions. What if you could truly only afford a nice 3 or 4 all along and was happy and appreciate the 3 or 4? It seems like some guys are like the family dog with their tail in their mouth going around in circles. I don't mean any disrespect. Example, 71 Tops guy and I just got an OPC SGC3 Pete Rose. And most people would not want it because it's off-center and high-graded. 71 Rose OPC would be 8X probably. Thank you. All right. You're saying don't hold back, so I'm not going to hold back. I'll be completely blunt, completely honest, completely share my thoughts on what I think of this. There are a lot of ways to enjoy a hobby. And there are a lot of ways that we think the way we are doing it is better than the way someone else is doing it. And there are times we don't understand that somebody else could get joy from doing it in a way that's different than the way we do it. So I'm going to use a couple of analogies. I like analogies. I like to golf. I have some friends that I know that will go golf at a golf course that's $250 a round. They'll only golf at really, really nice courses. I don't need that. I'm totally cool going down to the Muni. I'm totally cool playing the course with the beat up tee boxes. Like, I'm fine with that. I don't need to be playing at a pristine course to enjoy playing golf. I like golf for the exercise. I like golf to hang out with people that I like. I like the beauty of golf courses. And I like playing too. But I don't need to play at a premier course to enjoy it. So it doesn't mean that someone else is wrong because they want to play Pebble Beach and Spyglass and Bethpage and PGA West. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just a different way of enjoying the hobby. And okay, so that's just like a golf example. My wife, she likes wine. I don't drink wine. Have I ever drank wine? I don't know. I've probably drank 5 glasses of wine in my life. Okay. And in those 5 glasses, I can't tell the difference between a $200 glass of wine and a 50-cent glass of wine. I mean, they have Trader Joe's out here. I don't even know. It's Trader Joe's National. Trader Joe's has Charles Shaw wine. It used to be $2. They used to call it $2 Chuck. We were at Trader Joe's the other day. I saw it's up to $3.50. So if you want to know what's happened with the economy and inflation, track Charles Shaw bottles of wine prices at Trader Joe's. So it's at $3.50. Now, if you put a Charles Shaw bottle of wine in front of me, and you put a $1,000 bottle of wine in front of me, I absolutely wouldn't know the difference. Does that mean that the person who's spending $100 on a glass of wine is crazy? Now, some people are saying, yes, that makes them crazy. That's fine if you think that. I don't know. I just think they enjoy that differently. You know, I'll have like a bourbon and Coke, right? Jim Beam is fine. That's fine for me. I don't need anything more than Jim Beam. Some people are like, oh my gosh, how could you drink that? You're crazy. Okay. So some people are more into premium things, and some people are just into participating in things. Having a PSA 2 or a PSA 3 card from 1960, you're participating. You're enjoying it. It's like playing the local Muni. It's fine. You get to be a part of the thing. You are enjoying it, and that scratches the itch for you. Some people, they want to have the PSA 8 or the PSA 9. They want to have a premium example of that card, of that same card, and pay a lot more for it because That's what they like. And just like some people want to go play, Torrey Pines, and they don't want to play San Diego Muni. And that's okay too. So you're asking me to be blunt. I'm being as blunt as I can. I think there are a lot of ways that we can enjoy this hobby. And in most cases, it's different than how somebody else is enjoying it. Maybe we collect modern versus vintage. Maybe pre-war versus golden era. Maybe Ernie Banks instead of Harmon Killebrew. Maybe Ty Cobb instead of Shohei Ohtani. There are a lot of options on the menu. Just like there are a lot of golf courses on the possible playlist and a lot of bottles of wine on the possible drink list. And some people are completely satisfied by just playing the Muni, or having the card and a 2 or a 3 is just fine. And some people, they want to participate in the hobby in a different way. And I think that's something that we all do, myself included at times. I mean, I've made videos that have said, why are people making this mistake? And let's face it, it's not really a mistake. It's just, hey, what I'm saying, that the translation for that is, hey, have you thought about this instead? I'm not really saying it's a mistake. Sure, that's what it says. But what I'm saying is, here's another option. Here's another way of going about things that maybe you can consider. And maybe you can say, Greg, nope, not doing that, not interested. That's not my thing. And that's totally cool. So, with that said, I appreciate the 5 questions for this week. I plan on being back next week. It's going to be an amazingly fun next few days. And I am just hoping for no plane delays on the way there. I just want to get there and hang out and have a blast safely with a bunch of great guys. Again, if you have a question, down below in the comments, simply type it out. I look forward to reading it.